Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Yoga Break It Down. I'm Yoga Suze. In this episode, we're going to explore spinal twist, and we're going to do a few variations, including one on the floor, one using a chair, and then one more traditionally of what you'd see in a yoga class or yoga video where we're seated on the floor. So in this first variation, you're going to come to lay down on a comfortable flat surface. So it could be the hard floor. I have my yoga mat on top of a carpet and seems like just enough balance of cushion and support. You're going to bend your legs over your torso and then let the bent legs start to fall to one side. And to come into a full supported twist here, you're going to let the bent legs come all the way down to the floor. If they are not able to, you may consider using folded blankets or some type of cushion so that the legs can find a space to rest on above the ground. We really want the legs to be able to relax into the pose, so if you were just holding them mid-air, you would not be relaxed. Your legs should be able to reach the floor. It's more of a question if as you do that, does the opposite shoulder blade come up off the floor? If it does not mean necessarily that you need the prop to lift the legs. So first see if you can get the legs to the floor, even if that shoulder blade comes up. And then once the legs are there, there's a way that you can try to adjust the shoulder blades to make them even or more even along the floor. I push the back of my head into the mat and I'm sort of sinking down through the hip that's on the floor, and I push those two areas into the floor, and then I'm able to lift the torso just ever so slightly off the floor, just enough so you can get that one shoulder blade that's in contact with the floor sort of out from under and let that other one drop down a little bit. So that should even them out a bit. If you still feel that the torso is significantly turned, the shoulder blades are not even along the floor, then use those folded blankets or cushions so that the legs can sink into it, just like I'm demonstrating here. So we want to be able to relax in this position so we can receive the pose, receive the stretch. Once you have the shoulder blades somewhat even along the floor and the hips rotated, the legs in a comfortable position, I want you to notice the neck. For some reason, often when we lay down in positions, we tilt the head up as though we're trying to look at something behind us. So I want you to reposition the head and the neck. And I do this by lifting the head just a smidge up off the floor and tilting the chin down towards the chest and then placing the head back down. And then when you place the head down, it's going to be more of the base of the back of the head instead of square on the back of the head that you'll feel in contact with the floor. And that's drawing that base of the head up and the chin down. So the neck should be straighter and more comfortable. You want the shoulders to relax. Just completely let go in the shoulders and arms, finding a comfortable position. A spinal twist occurs when you have the hips facing one way and the chest facing another way. There's a twist in the midsection of the spine or the mid-lower section of the spine. And you might feel a little bit of a pull of a stretch right in that immediate area and possibly a bit higher and lower along the spine, and possibly down into the upper hip of your stack of hips. You might get a stretch into that hip or glute. If you want to increase that stretch a little bit, you can take the hand that's over on that side conveniently and rest it on the top of the stack of legs, just sort of hook that hand on the top leg, and that'll just gently add a little bit of weight and encourage the leg to sink down and give a little pull on that hip. This is a pose, once you're positioned with any support you need, you should feel really comfortable into it, and I encourage you to relax into this position on each side for 3 to 5 minutes. So if it is hard for you to do nothing, you are welcome to turn on the radio, a podcast, your music, have the TV on if you're not straining your head and neck to be able to look at what's going on, and sort of lose yourself in the stretch. There's no harm in doing it for longer if you really get absorbed in something and realize, 15 minutes later that you've been in this position. This is a position we can really receive the yoga in, and this would be an example of yin yoga. So if you ever see a video or class labeled yin yoga, it's about positioning yourself, in our pose, receiving the stretch and just being in it without having to exert a lot of effort. The more you relax into it, the deeper you get into it. Make sure to do this stretch on the other side as well. That version of the twist is usually user-friendly for many people, though some people find it very difficult to get down onto the floor, and even if they can get down onto the floor, maybe have a hard time getting back up off of the floor. So that's why this next demonstration is of a spinal twist with a chair. And it could be a folding chair, a kitchen chair, possibly an office chair. See what you have around you. If you do not have a chair available to you without armrests, just work with the chair that you have. You can always sit in a chair, any type of chair, and manage a twist, reaching for the areas of the chair that you're able to. I start out this pose sitting in the chair, normally facing the correct direction, though I have my pelvis and back a little bit away from the back of the chair. Then I'm walking my feet all the way over to one side, so I'm no longer facing forward, I'm facing out to the side of the chair. In this example, I have my legs over on the left of the chair. So since my left side is closest to the back of the chair, I'm going to lift that left arm. I'm going to turn the chest to face the back of the seat of the chair. Place that left hand down, straight down to the back of the seat of the chair where it reaches, and then bring that right hand over again somewhere along the back of the seat of the chair. Remember that our twist occurs when you have the hips facing one direction and the chest facing another. For those of you who had the legs all the way on the floor in the last position, you had a 90-degree twist. If you had your legs elevated a little bit, then it was maybe closer to 45-degree angle or a little bit more. In this position, we might get into that 90-degree twist or maybe a little bit less. So let's start with noticing where the hips and pelvis are, and we want to let the pelvis sink down into the seat of the chair. Be aware of the knees and the feet. So your feet are going to be parallel to each other or maybe touching, whichever's comfortable, but pointing straight forward, not out to the side, not pigeon-toed. And you want to have a sense of the heels, the knees, and the hips in line. So the knees are not leaning to one side or the other. When the chest is turned, it's probably just going to be turned a little bit towards the back of the seat of the chair. Pay attention now. We often think that where our eyes are gazing is where the chest has turned, but usually we're completely wrong about that. Often the eyes are way over here and the chest is still here. It is completely fine if the head is turned a little bit more, because that might give a nice twist in the neck area and a little bit down into the back of the spine. That can be okay, but you may occasionally or start out with having the head in line with the chest so that you have awareness of what the upper torso is doing, because there's no twist happening if the chest is staying in line with the hips. So for a moment, bring the head in line with the chest and focus on, as the feet sink down, as the knees stay in line, turning the chest away from those legs, and then using the hands on the back of the seat of the chair to sort of give a little push-pull to help the upper torso rotate a little bit more. Again, check in and make sure your nose, your chin are in line with your chest. Keep that motion going with the turn of the upper body. And then again, either you may like to keep the head in line, or you might turn the head a little bit more to the side. So in this scenario, if I had my legs coming to the left, I'm turning the chest to the left, I turn my head to the left, starting to look behind me. It's an option. See which works for you. You might find that the angle of the twist is similar to what you achieved on the floor, or maybe you're not going as far. Maybe it was easier to have those legs drop on the floor and get that 90-degree turn, whereas sitting upright maybe you're at less of a twist. That's fine, that's completely normal. Make sure to do this pose on both sides. The third variation that we're doing, we're going to be sitting on the floor. And again, this is the variation that's more traditional in a class or a video that you may have experienced. So if I'm bending my right leg, I'm going to then bring my right foot over to the outside of the left leg. I'm going to keep the foot even along the floor and the knee pointing straight up. We don't want that leg to just flop open. Then I would take my left hand to hold onto, hook onto that bent leg, or maybe even hook my left elbow around that right leg, or possibly bring the left elbow in front of the right leg. So in either of these options, you can give a little pull or push into that bent leg to turn the chest a little bit more. Once again, keep in mind that the hips are facing one way and you're working on the chest turning another way. Really tune in to how this feels in the center of the spine, where you feel the more acute twist, and where it feels at different degrees throughout the spine, how your shoulders and shoulder blades are doing, and again the hips and the glutes as well. And customize it. We don't want to push ourselves too far. If we're just pushing into this to try to achieve that full 90-degree turn and we're in pain, it's defeating the purpose of our twist. Make sure to do this pose on both sides. The importance of spinal twists in yoga is for our general back health. In yoga, we address the back through elongation, such as in forward folds, downward dog. We do spinal twists, and we also do back arcs. And each of these we're going to practice to the degree that it's okay for us and not causing us any pain. We may need to modify these poses considerably because the back is in charge. The back needs to be comfortable in these poses, but if we move it a little bit one way and another way and another way over and over and over again, we're going to gain flexibility and we're going to start elongating in the spine, so there will be less compression, which can lead to less discomfort in the back. So all three are really critical for our back health. Thanks for watching another episode of Yoga Break It Down. I'm Yoga Suze. Please hit that subscribe button, add this video to your watch later list, and remember that every body needs yoga. So Gina Davis needs yoga, census takers need yoga, preachers need yoga, and you especially, baby, you need yoga too. So I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.